Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Raymond.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's really excited to talk to you, especially after I got to know how much you know about this space, the mysticism, spiritual space. Um, I think we can start with talking about your background. You're coming from a research scientist background, and today you have over 30 years of experience in this space. Yeah, so how would you explain the connection between science and mysticism?
That's a tricky one to start with.
Yeah.
So, I started out very much a scientist, analytical, needing to know why and how the world worked. But then I studied a chemistry degree in Australia, but then I had questions that science couldn't answer anymore. And so I started to look past my scientific background. And so for a while, I got into a religious group, and then I found a dead end there as well. So I kept searching. And so eventually, I came up with a spiritual view of the world that doesn't need to have a religious dogma attached to it, but that very much is still very grounded in, I've still got to, I don't believe any old thing. I need to analyze, does it make sense?
Yeah.
And so I've still got that analytical side to me. And so that I can start to see the world is much more than what science taught me. In fact, a lot of science is being shown to not be true.
Can you give some examples about this?
Just the atomic theory, things like this. No one knew about the quantum side of things. Originally, it was very much just a discrete thing. We're all separate things.
Yeah.
But now it's this idea that we're all connected. And science is starting to look at this, how our thoughts can actually affect matter. Originally, scientists didn't want to go there. Things like epigenetics. I was taught back in biology that our genes are fixed. If we've got this gene, we're going to have this problem.
Yes.
And then people like Bruce Lipton, he's one of the pioneers in this epigenetics, is saying, no, it's the things that happen to you during your life. It's the environment you're in that switches on or off genes. So there's a complete divergence from this kind of a system that was taught to me a long time ago.
Yeah, and you managed to went through it. I mean, through the process of from where you were a scientist and through religions, which is especially quite a rough part to navigate with all the social opinions and conditionings. Yeah, and how did you get to the part where you knew, oh, this is what I want to do, and like what you're working on today as a sound healer?
That was much later in my life.
Okay.
I was running the two things concurrently. I was studying all my alternative therapies, getting more and more qualified in those, but it was only as a hobby. It was never my job. And I was working in the research lab. After that, I got sick of the research lab. I became a science teacher, science and maths teacher. So
Okay.
I went into the school system thinking that I could inspire kids with the love of learning that I had. But I couldn't do it. They weren't interested. And so I didn't spend so long doing that. But then there was a turning point where I traveled the world for 2 years with my backpack. And I just went to visit sacred sites, energy places, and just see what I could feel. And be guided rather than having to think too much, just feeling what to do next. And I realized, wow, things really flowed for me. The more I trusted, the more wonderful people I met that were so helpful, the more the more mystical experiences I started to have at some of these sacred sites. So I think that was a big turning point.
Can you share about the mystical experience you had?
Well, for instance, at Machu Picchu in Peru, three of us went up there to a particular hill. There was a pyramidal shaped hill in Machu Picchu, and very, very strong energy up there. And we just happened to meet some other people from Spain who were up there meditating. And so they invited us to join them. And for a whole hour, no other tourist came there. We had the place to ourselves, and they got us to hold hands in a circle, and I could feel energy pushing against my chest and pulling me forward, pushing and pulling. And I saw faces of like ancient Incans just appearing.
What's that? Ancient Incans?
Well, the Inca people who lived in that region and who were at Machu Picchu.
Oh, the image just appeared to you.
Yes. And at the end, one of the Spanish people said she'd seen exactly what I saw. So it was like confirmation that I wasn't just making it up or hallucinating.
Wow. That's when you were meditating, right?
Yeah, well, we were holding hands, feeling the energy coming from the center of this circle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you never had such experience before when you were meditating?
No.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I was guided to go to Egypt. I spent 9 months. The third time I went to Egypt, I spent 9 months in Luxor. Every day I went to the Luxor temple, and I was having very mystical experiences there and writing it all down. I thought it was going to turn into a book, actually, but it didn't. It just was a journal of all these amazing things that were happening to me.
Yeah. And just now when you mentioned high energy, how would you describe the high energy? Just for context.
It feels like the body tingling. You feel energy moving up through the body, and it starts to tingle, and you just feel in an altered state of consciousness, not just in a full waking consciousness.
And at the time, can I say you were on sabbatical? That you stopped working for a while?
Yeah, you could probably say that.
Yeah, and then, but you're just living your life like normal and following your feeling of what to do.
Yeah,
next.
the only plan I had was I wanted to visit sacred sites and energy spots around the planet.
Oh, that's your
But I
intention.
didn't have a definite program.
Okay.
I didn't have a definite length of time.
Okay.
I just
So you
decided
didn't know
to...
it would take 2 years?
No.
Okay, cool. And then what happened next?
Well, then when I was in Egypt, that was the last place.
Okay.
In my meditations in the Luxor temple, this child was coming to me saying, "Hurry up, I want to be born." And I'm thinking, who's the father? And so, but I kept getting this, "Hurry up, I want to be born." So I thought, okay, I've got to go back to Australia.
Oh, you were single back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I came back to Australia, fell in love.
Okay.
And this child came through, and she was the most magical, amazing child. She had severe disabilities. Her body didn't work, but she was communicating with me in other ways.
When you say other ways, just like how you got a message that she wants to be born.
Yeah.
Can you expand a little bit what happened there? You were sleeping, or how did the message came about?
No, well, in the temple I was meditating, but when I was pregnant, I would just sit quietly and I'd feel her presence very close.
I mean, before you had her,
right?
Like what happened? Like how was the message received? Like she said, "Hurry up! I want to be born."
Yeah, it was like a voice in my head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how is the experience after having her?
Well, it was very, very stressful because she had severe disabilities, and I and her father left, so I was on my own.
Okay.
And I had to care for someone who couldn't eat or speak.
I see.
And so it was a very stressful time, and yet I felt she had all this love. People would want to hold her, and after they held her for a while, they'd say, "Oh, I feel so
They
good
feel
now."
better.
And young children
Wow.
said, "She told me she wants to play with my doll." She'd given a telepathic
Seriously?
message to them,
Wow.
and then they'd bring the doll, and sure enough, she got really excited, even though she couldn't speak.
Wow. Can I know what kind of disabilities that she had?
It was classed as cerebral palsy, which means
Oh, I
damage
see.
to the
Okay.
brain.
Okay.
But there's levels. She had what's called spastic quadriplegia. Every like all her limbs couldn't work, and she couldn't speak or eat. So she was fed through a tube.
Wow. It's amazing that she can still communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after that, you got into sound healing fully, or how did that came about?
That came about much later.
Okay.
After she passed away.
Oh, she passed away.
Yes,
Okay.
when she was just before her 10th birthday.
I see.
My brother, who has a business here in Malaysia, said, "Look, why not make a fresh start? Come over and help me run the business." And so that's what brought me to Malaysia.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
So I was
see.
running the business and still practicing all my other therapies and learning new ones. And it was, sound was really the last one I learned about. I'd already been doing so many other things, but because I was musical and loved playing music, it seems like my two loves, healing and sound and music, came together.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like the perfect one for me.
Yeah, it's like you're combining your passion, what you really love, and to provide something beneficial to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've specialized in sound, but I still draw on the other things as well. Reiki, EFT, tapping, emotion code, and other things.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things.
Yeah, but sound is the main focus.
Okay, okay. Okay. And how would you say how those experiences help you to go into sound healing?
Well, one of the things that I found really good about sound is that there's so much scientific research has been done on how it works and why it works. And so the scientist in me really appreciated that I could explain what I'm doing to people who are very skeptical. Maybe a Reiki, how do I explain Reiki?
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's just using the hand.
Yeah,
like this.
energy, where
Energy.
you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Whereas sound, there's actually a lot of science being done, which explains how it alters body rhythms, particularly brainwave patterns, heart rate, breath rate. So it helps take people into different states of consciousness, from anxiety to deep peace, or for someone with maybe attention deficit, where they keep on going into that daydream state, they have trouble focusing.
Yeah.
So you can use certain sound frequencies to help bring them up into that alert state, and which helps them to be able to be analytical. Yeah, so it can do either thing.
So how would you say for someone who is struggling with stress in their life, it could be coming from different sources, right? How does sound actually help them?
It can help in a number of different ways. For one, many of us have a lot of trouble getting a calm mind. That mental chatter just won't stop.
Yes.
And
yes.
so for people like that, the sound pulses actually entrain the brain waves, takes you out of the beta, which is the analytical, judgmental, chattering stage, and slow it down so that it takes people naturally down through alpha into theta, which is either deep meditation or a dreaming sleep, and then delta, which is deep sleep. So someone, even on their first experience with sound, never been good at meditating, just because of the sound pulses in training their brain, immediately can get taken into a very deep state. And then they feel deep peace, which they haven't felt maybe for years. So, yeah.
And when you talk about sound, what kind of sound are we talking about in particular?
Aha.
Yeah.
So there's a whole range of things that can be used therapeutically. I mean, probably the thing people know about most is singing bowls.
Okay.
So there's metal bowls and crystal bowls.
Yeah.
But that's only a very small part of the repertoire.
Okay.
I mean, gongs are amazing.
Gongs as in the big gong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Where they usually use for opening ceremony or that. Are they
That's-
different?
That is the Oriental type gongs.
Okay.
But what sound therapists are mainly using are symphonic gongs from the
Okay.
West that are used in symphony orchestras.
Oh,
But
okay.
they're played in a very different way when they're used as a sound tool. And so most of the gongs that sound therapists are using are coming out of Germany.
Germany.
Yeah, that's the place where all the skill at hand making these symphonic gongs.
Oh, that explains. Like I heard the alchemy crystal ball, the best one came from
Yeah,
Switzerland.
US.
US.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I've got a set of alchemy bowls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And how do they actually help people to alter their brainwaves? What about other things like music that they listen to?
So there is music therapy
Yeah.
and there is sound therapy.
Okay.
There's some overlap,
Okay.
but music therapy is actually more a form of psychotherapy. It's working just with the emotions. Sound therapy is actually physically altering the person's body pulses. The brain is only one of the pulses that gets altered. The breath rate, the heart rate can all be entrained by sound. And you see, we don't just experience sound through our ears. Our bodies feel the vibrations. Sound travels through water and bone more easily than through air.
True. Yes.
And if you think we're about 70% water, and we're full of bone, our body is conducting the sound. And we're being bombarded with sound all the time, but a
Yes.
lot of it is not good for us.
Yeah.
City sounds, building sites, jackhammers, these
Yes.
kind of are
Yes.
not
In Malaysia we
helpful.
have a lot. Yeah.
But these instruments are putting in vibrations that can help the body. And so they can go right into the cells. And so this is how it works. That's one way it's working. Then the entrainment aspect is the pulses of, say, the crystal bowl. As you play it, it kind of makes a wow, wow, wow
yes.
sound. And that pulse is what is the same as the delta brainwave. And so the brain hears that pulse and starts to match it. In the same way, we hear music we like and we just start moving our body in rhythm.
Yes.
If you hear music you love, you can't sit still.
Yes.
You either tap your toe or you
Yes.
move your body.
Yeah.
It's a natural thing that humans do.
Oh, I think you give a very good example on how music and sound affect us.
Things like trance dance music actually entrains the brainwaves faster. It increases heart rate rhythm and creates excitement. That's why people love that ecstatic dance, because it takes people into the different brainwave state, different heart rate.
Oh.
But for sound therapy, we're generally trying to bring people down. And so we want to calm them, take them to very deeply relaxed states.
I see. So meaning to say, the sound that we experience around us, actually, the vibration and frequency will affect us, and it might also stay with our body.
Yeah.
If
Any sound, if it's continuous, can be detrimental. Think of it as vibrational energy. If we look at, say, vitamins are very necessary for our health.
yes,
But if we overdose on certain vitamins, they become toxic.
yes.
Vitamin A, for instance, If you have too much vitamin A, it's very toxic for the body.
Yes.
But we need some to be healthy. And so with sound vibrations, we need a whole range of frequencies to stay healthy. And the frequencies that are most beneficial for us are sounds of nature, birds chirping,
Yeah.
the sound of water flowing, the sound of rustling leaves. These things they have a whole range of frequencies. There's not
Yeah.
too much of one.
Yeah.
But even an aircon running for hours and hours with the same sounds coming out of it is actually too much of that vibration. It's not good for our health.
Oh, no wonder. Because I notice I don't really like aircons for too long. I normally switch on for a while and then I turn it off. That explains.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's these continuous sounds, and factories often have a lot of continuous sound. And so
Yes.
it's very tiring to the body when we
Yeah.
get too much of
Yeah.
those sounds that are not helping us.
Yeah.
That's why when I fly these days, because I generally have been doing a lot of flying,
Yeah.
I use the noise cancelling headphones because
yeah,
then the
yeah,
jet
yeah.
engine
Yes.
is cancelled.
Yeah, you can't hear it. Yeah.
My
but
body's
your body
still
will still
getting
get
it.
it. Yeah.
But the brain doesn't have to work so hard to filter it out.
Yeah.
See, we generally filter out sounds that are unpleasant
Yes.
so we can just function.
Yes.
But it's very tiring to have to filter
True.
out too many sounds. And
True.
so the noise cancelling headphones are helpful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you have been traveling around the world most of the time for sound healing. Usually, how do you get this kind of healing sessions around? And what's the reason that they normally look up for you?
Well, it started because I got introduced to people.
Okay.
Mostly I was doing regular trips to Europe because a Qigong master from Malaysia was doing sessions and she asked me to join her. And so I went to Germany first
Okay.
and they really loved what I was doing. And so they said, please come back. And so I was going back twice a year. And then I met someone when I was in Mount Shasta in Northern California. That's where all my crystal bowls came from. From
Northern California.
yeah,
Okay.
there's a wonderful shop there.
Yeah.
So this lady lived in Switzerland. She said, "Oh, you must come with your bowls and do something and stay with me." And so she introduced me to all her people there. And then I met someone from France who came over here, and she said, "Oh, you must come to France and let's do things." She was a voice healer, so she and
Voice
I
healer.
collaborated. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I was going to Belgium also twice a year. And I don't know how I met that lady. She's a Irish yoga teacher, also a gong player. And she'd heard about me and she invited me. So it's all informal. It's not
It's
like...
it all just came about happening for you, and
Yeah.
then And normally, what's the feedback from them having you conducting those sound sessions for them?
Well, people seem to love it. And what I do is similar to what a lot of other people are doing with sound.
Yeah.
But I have pushed it a lot further because I have this spiritual side that I get guided and I follow that guidance rather than just sticking with my training.
Yeah.
I went to San Francisco and did my formal training in sound there. But they were very open-minded. They said, just let the instruments guide you how they want to be played and trust that actually the instruments have their own consciousness. They're not just inanimate objects.
Yeah.
They have a consciousness. And so if I work with the instruments, I'm guided. And so a person, maybe they've got some anger that has been very suppressed. Maybe since childhood they were scolded every time they got angry. And so they learned to just push it all down. It's all stuck there. and it's affecting their health even though they're not aware of it. So a gong will be able to, the vibrations of the gong will start to feel the anger that they've suppressed. And so it will guide me and say, start playing louder, go louder, go louder. And so the gong gets quite loud sometimes. And what it's doing is it's bringing their
Emotions.
unexpressed anger to the surface and helping to release it.
Wow.
And there was a time when I didn't trust the gong. I had a 80-year-old first sound session, and the gong, I didn't know he had a lot of anger suppressed.
Okay.
And the gong's just saying, go louder, go louder. And I was going pretty loud, and I thought, he's 80. What if I'm overdoing this?
That's your mind coming
You know,
into...
it's like, I better pull back.
Yeah.
And so I did. And at the end, he said, wow, that was great. But he said, I wish you'd gone longer on the gongs. That was the best part.
Okay.
And so I learned to trust after that.
But did you get the message of going louder
The gong
as you were doing it?
Yes. Yeah, it was
you were
telling
getting
me.
the message. Okay.
Then, not long after, I had a lady who had stage 4 cancer, and she could hardly walk into where I was. And her husband was with her, and she was kind of grey-faced. And again, the gong was telling me, go loud, go loud. Thinking, oh, really? But I trusted it this time because of that last experience. And also my voice started to come out very loud with the gong. And as that happened, she started to cry and wail. And the louder I got, the louder she got, until she was lying on the massage bed just crying and wailing really loudly. And then I felt, oh, it's done. And so we stopped. And she sat up, she was smiling, she had colour in her cheeks. And her husband said she's never been able to cry.
Wow.
She had held tears in for years and years.
Oh.
And it was the gong that unlocked the tears.
Yeah.
And after that, she did pass away a few weeks later, but she had this huge weight of emotion that she'd been carrying around. She'd been able to shift it because of the gong.
Yeah. Amazing stories. Because, I mean, I have had old people in my house, my parents, so I know they usually have unspoken emotions and anger or resentments in them.
Yeah.
And they usually wouldn't work on it because they have been through so much, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to hear that this instrument can help them. Because I myself, I learned about clearing my belief systems, working on my belief systems. But for certain people, I really believe that instruments is the way to help them, just like what you did. Amazing work.
I can give another example.
Yeah.
The other thing I do, biofield tuning,
Yeah.
using tuning forks to move through a person's electromagnetic field that's around their body, and that can find where the traumas are and what age traumas happened. I had a lady, she was in her late 60s. Her daughter brought her to see me. Very wealthy, had everything she needed in life, never happy. Never happy. And so it turned out she was feeling so much benefit from the sessions that she came to see me once a week for nearly 2 months. And each week we uncovered more trauma from her childhood. And there was a time when she was 6. Up until 6, she was this happy-go-lucky. She loved dancing, she'd sing. And then this big trauma happened. She had an alcoholic father who became very violent, and her mother couldn't cope. And it's like she just shut down. All the joy went out of her life. What happened was I cleared all the trauma, and she got this childlike joy back. You would think someone in their late 60s, maybe it's a little bit late.
Yeah.
But what happened? Firstly, she came one time to see me and she said, I've got this list my husband wrote of all the amazing changes he's seen in me since I've been having these sessions with you.
Okay.
Then she went for a holiday to Myanmar. And normally she said, she'd be going, oh, more temples, more, more palaces. I've seen them all. But she said she got to Myanmar and she's going, oh, look at that. That's so amazing. She was in awe, like a child.
Wow.
And she said, I can't believe the change.
Yeah.
After that, never saw her again. She didn't need to come back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was from trauma that had happened to her when she was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And then all the traumas after that, because of that first trauma, once those were dissolved from her field, then she could be happy.
You know what you're telling me is so different from what I heard from conventional science practices, like going for therapy sessions. I'm not disregarding the importance of those therapy, but what I'm getting the feedback from people who go for psychologists, those therapy sessions, is that they find it they have to keep going back, and then they are not really solving their problems. But this is entirely different.
Yeah.
And just now when you mentioned biofuel, what actually is biofuel?
So the name given to the electromagnetic field that surrounds everyone and surrounds animals and surrounds plants is known as the biofield. And it's electromagnetic. It can be measured.
Okay.
And it just was accidentally discovered that a tuning fork, when moved through the biofield, feels like distortions in the field, like little pressure waves.
A tuning fork.
Yeah. So you strike the tuning fork, you get it vibrating, and then as you move it through it, it feels like it hits something. And each of those things corresponds to a trauma from earlier in your life. And so the fork, you keep putting it in the same spot until that distortion starts to break up, and then you've dissolved it. And so that's a memory that is, the trauma associated with that memory has gone now.
Okay, meaning to say when you're using the tuning fork to measure, is it measure or?
It's not really measuring, I'm
Like how?
moving through. We
Just
call
moving
it
through.
combing the field. That's the
Okay,
term that's
combing the
being given. Combing through the field with this fork, and it will hit a spot, and then you keep on hitting the fork again, put it back there until you feel like the resistance has gone. Then you move closer to the body. You start at the edge of someone's field and you gradually move
gradually
towards
moving in.
into the middle. The edge is birth and even in the womb. What happened to you while your mother was pregnant
Okay.
can affect you. If she had a
yes.
stressful pregnancy,
Yeah.
you will have a trauma in your field.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so very common for my clients to
It is.
have birth trauma and in the womb trauma.
Okay. Okay, I just want to understand further about how this works. So, first of all, how was it discovered? Do you know? I'm quite curious on this.
The lady who discovered this, Eileen McCusick, she's American. She was a massage therapist, and someone had given her some tuning forks, and she thought, what can I do with these? And then one day she just hit the fork. She was over near the window, far from her client. She hit the fork, and as she just moved back towards him, she felt something. Felt like the fork got caught. She didn't know what it was. So she started experimenting. It took her 15 years to map the biofield and say, okay, in virtually everyone's biofield, if I feel a distortion in a certain part of their field, it corresponds to a certain type of trauma that they went through in their life. It took her a long time to work out how it works.
Oh, wow. Okay. So meaning to say if you're combing the fork into a person's biofield and it is moved, then there's no much of a trauma they have to work on.
In
Is it possible?
Yeah, in certain parts of the field, there may be no traumas for one person, but in another part of their field, you go back to the edge, there may be a lot of trauma in that
see.
part. And so she put out this map of, okay, over here is when people worry about the future all the time. Over here in their field is when they're suffering from guilt and shame. Maybe they were shamed as a little child and told that they're bad. Another place will be their relationship with their mother and feeling powerless will be in another part of their field. So each person will have different kinds of traumas from their youth and childhood. that will appear in different parts of their field.
This sounds like emotion code. Like different part of the body stores different emotions. So when you work on this, do you have to be physically present with your clients? Or
The great thing about biofield tuning is it can be done remotely.
how is that possible?
Yeah, it seems incredible,
Yeah.
but then distance Reiki works. You know, I'd already
Okay.
learned distance Reiki, so I kind of already had a bit of context for it. But how we were taught to do it, we imagined the holographic image of our client and place that on our massage bed as if they are physically present. And then through a voice call, I'm telling them what I'm feeling and they're telling me what they're feeling. And so I can comb the field. The fork can feel their distortions as if they are present in the room.
Oh, okay.
And it seems impossible,
Yeah.
but I've had my own field worked on many times by a lady in Australia, and I've been here in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And I have clients all around the world, and they come back for more because they feel such changes after the sessions.
Wow. This is quite mind blowing. You can just work on your trauma like that. So what do you do when you discover a trauma?
The great thing about this is you don't have to know even what the trauma was. If, for instance, something happened in your childhood that if you remembered it, it would
Yeah.
re-traumatize you, then the person won't remember. And I will find the distortion, clear it, and they don't need to know what I'm clearing.
Seriously?
Yeah,
You don't have to identify what was the cause.
no, it's not necessary. Other times, the subconscious mind wants you to remember something because then it'll help you connect dots in your life and go,
Yeah.
oh, that's why then later this happened, you know, that. So then you'll suddenly get a memory will pop in, maybe something you've forgotten all about that happened years ago.
Yeah.
I often have people tell me, oh, you picked up something. I've never told anybody about that. I forgot all about it. Like a lady at 12, one of the teachers at the school molested her. She
Oh, yeah.
never told anyone. It showed up in her field exactly at 12.
Wow.
And then suddenly all the memories came back and we cleared it. And then she felt at peace after that.
Wow. Did she forget about it or she just never told anyone?
She hadn't told anyone at the time. And then because now she was a mother herself, she was in her 40s, she'd kind of just forgotten about it.
Wow.
But it picked it up and obviously her subconscious wanted her to
Yeah,
remember that because
yeah.
suddenly the whole memory flooded back into her mind. We cleared it, then she didn't have any trauma thinking about it.
That is so beautiful. Because for what I know, a lot of people, they go through difficult moments or traumas in their life, early life, right?
Yeah.
They often forgot about what happened and they couldn't go back to resolve it or do anything about it. This is like a cheat code just to get it done and then finally move on in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. I know a couple of people that it can help.
I think everyone's got trauma. It doesn't have to be the big trauma like
Yeah.
sexual abuse or
Yeah.
or a violent family. It can be for a sensitive child. It could be a 3-year-old gets lost in the department store for 5 minutes. And during that time, they're terrified. They get found, nothing bad happened, but that may have left a trauma. Whereas another child who's got lots of confidence, for the 5 minutes, they're busy exploring, having a great time. They didn't get any trauma from that 5 minutes.
Exactly.
So everyone's different. Everyone's nervous systems are different.
Yeah.
We register things. So what might feel traumatic to one may not be traumatic to another.
What I can see is you're doing really this amazing work. And for someone who is coming from a scientific background and who has been to the corporate field, I really want to hear your perspective on how do you actually transition from the conventional life into something that is so different and extraordinary. At the same time, you're helping so many people.
I think what helped me to make the transition into full-time therapist was that I studied night school in Australia long ago. I studied lots of courses on weekends. I took time off to go overseas and study while I was still working at a job. And what I suggest, because I also teach sound now, I suggest to people who want to make that transition, if it means taking a part-time job in the area you're currently in, or just taking on less responsibilities so you've got the space to study and start perfecting something else. And then you gradually transition. You don't just quit your job and then go, okay, now I've got to make my full income from this new thing.
Yeah.
That is very stressful.
Yeah.
And it's not the way to calmly go in and share your gifts. You need to be running them both for a while. And for some people that may be a short while, for others it may be quite a long while, until the hobby turns into your main passion and you don't have time for work anymore. And then you can just drop the old job.
What was the point that you actually made the decision, okay, I'm dropping this off, this is what I want to do? Because I think this would be very helpful for people. Doesn't really matter where they are heading, but at least they are heading towards where they feel they belong. Yeah.
Everyone's different. You've got to find what is your passion, what really lights you up, what comes from your heart. The biggest thing is to get in touch with your heart, and that will guide you what area do you need to go into. And if you're passionate about it and it's not coming from, oh, I think this can make me a lot of money or this can give me status, that is not going to work.
Okay.
You've got to have a passion for it and want to help or want to contribute in some way. That is the key. And then you need to drop away slowly what's been earning you the money but not coming from passion and heart. So I think what I see happening sometimes in the sound field, because that's the area I'm seeing it most, people, they go, oh, I hate my day job.
Yeah.
I want to earn lots of money. Oh, this sound thing it's really taking off now. And so they do it because they think it'll make them money and get them out of a job they don't want. Instead of it's coming from their heart. And then it's not likely to work. But if you're doing it from your heart, and then maybe you make decisions based on your heart that may not even seem logical to your mind, but if you trust that intuitive, heart-based feel, you'll find unexpected doors will open that you haven't even dreamed. You don't need to make a plan, stick to it, be flexible. And if an opportunity suddenly comes, say yes if it feels good. So to me, that's how to do it.
Okay.
But don't try to do it too, quit the job. I hate the boss. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I got to pay the bills. I got to pay the rent. I got to feed myself. And it's too stressful.
Yeah, from I understand from you is you have to come off on a very positive, good energy instead of like resenting the job, hating the job. Wow, how long it took for you to move from the very beginning until
from
now?
making the final decision to well, look, I was quite excited about coming to Malaysia, running the business with my brother for a while.
Okay.
But it was a golf business. It's his passion.
I see.
It wasn't my passion.
Yeah.
I was good at the problem solving, the logistical problems of running the warehouse.
Yeah.
But I wasn't getting my needs met. My passion was helping people. And that's not everyone's passion.
And you were helping your brother.
I helped him a lot.
Yeah.
I did.
And
I helped
you
him a
also
lot.
was very excited coming to Malaysia. Yeah, that I think
Yeah.
that checks the box. Yeah.
And so gradually, it took a while because I felt like if I resign, because he'd already moved and opened a new office in Thailand, and I was managing Malaysia, and I thought, oh, if I leave, I'm letting him down. So I went through a bit of a torturous time,
Yeah.
feeling mean
Yeah.
that I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to do my thing full time. But finally, I had to talk to him, and he understood that I needed to follow my passion.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's good to know. Okay, I think we are gonna wrap this up.
Okay.
So before I wrap it up, maybe you can share about how anyone who is listening to this, how they can reach out to you.
So I've got social media. My social media is elizabethhuxtable.soundhealer. I've got Facebook and Instagram, and that shows any upcoming events. But I'm kind of in a transition time where I'm looking like I'm going to be moving to Bangkok, and so there's less things happening in Malaysia. So,
Okay.
but there's always online.
So good that I catch you now.
Yeah.
That you're still here.
Yeah, but that's the way to find it. elizabethhuxtable.soundhealer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. I believe you have more to share, and I would definitely love to have you here again.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thanks.